Welcome to a special video interview presented by RadioRadioX. I am Justin Smulison, RadioRadioX contributor and your proud host. My guest today is Camden Cruz. He is the guitarist for the rising U.S. power metal band Seven Kingdoms. Seven Kingdoms has a brand new EP that is available worldwide right now from Reigning Phoenix Music. The EP is called The Square, and you are hearing a clip of one of the singles called Through These Waves. Camden and I are going to talk all about The Square and a little bit about its predecessor album Zenith, which is also a real solid effort. And we're going to talk about what it's like to be a power metal band from the US in 2024. And of course, we're going to talk about the excitement ahead of two tours, one that started since we recorded. Seven Kingdoms is touring North America right now with Stryker, Lutharo and Osyron. They will be touring through November all the way through December 8th. This tour will end in Orlando, Florida, and then in February, specifically February 12th, they will start a brand new European tour supporting Unleash the Archers, starting in Germany February 12th and running through March 2nd in the Netherlands. I dig Seven Kingdoms. I really liked The Square, and I thought it would be a lot of fun to speak with Camden about what it took to produce the album and how it fits into the band's business model. Let's get to it. RadioRadioX audiences worldwide, please welcome from Seven Kingdoms, Camden Cruz. All right, I am joined by Camden Cruz of Seven Kingdoms. He's a guitar player. How you doing there, Camden?
What's up? How you doing today? Thanks
Very
for having
good.
me.
Sure. Now, do you go by Cam or Camden?
All of it, all of the above. I don't really mind. I pretty much answered everything.
All right. Well, do you answer to guitar?
I was sometimes.
No.
Sometimes.
So you're in Florida right now, and you're getting ready for a big tour, the first of two tours, which is going to start, I'm just pulling it up here, I believe November 9th at Boozer's Rock Bar in Corpus Christi, Texas. You're going to be playing with Stryker, Lutharo, and Osyron, right?
Yeah, Osyron's doing, they're doing 4 of the Canadian shows, so we just threw them on the poster because they were on like more than one date, basically, but it's just going to be, I think it's us, Stryker, Lutharo, and I think there's a local band that's playing that first show.
Okay, cool. I've interviewed Lutharo and I have it on record. I was their very first audio interview. So that's cool.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, going back a few years now. So you're in good company there, and you've got a brand new EP called The Square.
Yeah, no, it's just coming out Friday. Yeah, we're just kind of, it's like, it's been done for a little while, so like now that it's finally coming out, it's just like, oh, it's here, but like just it's old to us already, kind of, you know.
Right.
I mean, we're just rehearsing the songs, and you know, those still haven't hit stage, so those are going to develop over the first week, I'm sure, of the tour, and to like what they become. Every song always changes after you play it a little bit. So,
and just to cue everybody in, the EP on The Square, the tracks that comprise the EP, it's 4 originals and a cover. The cover is a great track from the 80s that I loved as a kid. I love it as an adult and as a parent. We'll talk about that in a moment. But so tell us what's been going on. You're independent, but the Square is signed to Reigning Phoenix Music, right? It's being distributed by them.
Yeah. So we were independent for a while. We were a Napalm band for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then we went back independent after that, and then through COVID and stuff like that, we survived, and we always done crowdfunding. So like actually The Square was our 6th crowdfund, I think, for a release, because we only do it for our releases. I mean, it's a model that we don't want to get rid of, and essentially the RPM deal that we had was like it's in conjunction with us doing this kind of model. So even when we go do the actual record, like I'm assuming that we're going to be doing it's like a crowdfunding in conjunction with, because like essentially like they're like, we print the vinyl, like they print some CDs, but then it's a lot of like, hey, let me get some of your copies and let me get some of your copies and stuff like
back
that.
and forth,
But yeah, I mean that discussion is going to happen, like the specifics. But I'm pretty sure like it's kind of, I don't know. I find it borderline revolutionary just because like once you're a crowdfunding band, like they're not going to write, no one's going to write you a check for the money that like the crowdfunding generates at our size. So it's like, it's a lot of risk, you know what I mean? Because we have to produce everything, front everything, and then collect it back and then pay the debts and stuff like that. And then, produce everything, ship everything. So we don't mind doing it. We have the infrastructure to do it at the house. And I mean, as it gets bigger, we need to expand, but like that's totally the game plan is to do that. But we're definitely with them, and they're essentially like when we get done with our piece, like we release it together, and then it becomes their record, like their license essentially. But like we're essentially like getting the brunt of the first bit of it done and handling it, so that way all they have to do is focus on promotion. And they've given us a ton of promotion and put it through the food chain. So I'm super happy with them so far. And I mean, like I said, I mean, they're going to become like, they are the next Nuclear Blast. Or they are Nuclear Blast kind of, but like, they're going to be the ones that take over a couple years from now, I'm pretty sure. So I'm happy to be on the ground floor with that label.
An emerging force, a rising force. And let's talk a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about the band, because we were talking before we were rolling. It's really cool dynamic in this band. I think it's the first time I've ever seen anything like this, where your wife, Sabrina, is the fantastic vocalist, and your guitar, I'm guessing bassist and other guitarist and drummer are the Byrds, and they're brothers.
Yeah, for sure.
You've got a husband and wife on one side, and you got two brothers on the other. And that's the first I've ever covered, at least in this dynamic. What's it like? There's family vibe, and in a way that's probably really good for the creative process, but I could see how it could be really stressful as well.
I mean, we always got along pretty well. I mean, especially the four of us, like, I mean, we're pretty just super chill. Like we've been with each other for so long, like, what not to do and what to do. And, we just, as you grow as adults and, you succeed or you don't. And I think we've, succeeded at least being around each other. So
right.
That's the thing too, is like, a lot of times, like, because it's your family, like you have to, you stick together harder rather than like if you were just, some random person and you weren't as tied to something, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of, I think helped, and I mean, I like in the writing process and stuff, especially like Keith and Kevin, like you can hear them kind of finish each other's thoughts sometimes. You know what I mean? So it's like just little things like that. So it's fun, and it makes it easier in a way, I guess.
Yeah.
Everybody's life is the same.
Seems like the pros outweigh the cons in your case. And
I mean, I think so.
Yeah. And that's cool. And like we were saying earlier, your wife, Sabrina, is a really fantastic vocalist. I think a lot of people might see a woman fronting a metal band and think, oh, it's symphonic metal. Totally not symphonic metal. There's some dashes of keyboards here and there, and maybe some programming, but it is not the sort of thing where she goes all operatic in an epica kind of a way. Is that something that you all consciously set out to do? You said, we're power metal and we don't want to dab our toe in that water too much.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely want to not be that typical symphonic / like operatic band. I mean, there's nothing symphonic about what we do for the most part, minus like the choirs maybe.
Yeah.
But like, but that's just gang vocals in our world. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's just like, I mean, there's notes and we have to like make music, but at the same time, like we're not trying to, I mean, we've done it, but like, it's just, that's the most we dabble in it. Sabrina's got a really big, like country, bluegrass background. So like, that's why she's not very operatic, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like, you take that and then you put her on tour with like, Unleashed Archers and stuff like that. So she learned her voice through all these years and kind of developed in what she is now. But I'm personally stoked that she doesn't sound like everybody else. You know what I mean? Because like a lot of and I'm not talking smack about anybody.
No, of course,
like
no.
A lot of like girls that come out and they kind of want to choose that, but it's like everybody's got their unique own voice, and I would like to see everybody use that rather than try to make it sound like an opera. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that's two different voices. It's like, to classically train, you kind of have to sound a specific way, and then like, what's your voice sound like?
Yeah. She goes more the road of Mikhail Kiske, if you really listen, in my opinion. It's where he can do some of the operatic stuff, but it's more about holding those notes and maintaining it. And it in a lot of ways, and I hope you'll take this as a compliment, reminds me of those really cool early Halloween albums that they did with Kiske.
Oh yeah.
Where that's what I take away from it. And I think that's one of the selling points as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, we're all pretty rabid Halloween fans, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it's the power metal thing. She needs to shake the orange, and like, kind of like female Judas Priest kind of thing,
Yeah, absolutely, and that's cool. And so when you were writing the square, how was it different this time around? The predecessor album Zenith, I remember when that came out. I'm sure those songs were banked at the height of COVID, and you finally got to release in 22. Basically. These you had. Did you just feel the time was right to do an EP as opposed to hold them for another year and then put them on an album?
Oh yeah. Well, we did with Zenith. We did a lot of touring on that. So like the Zenith record came out. We started like doing the first songs live on tour with Beast in Black in 2022. And then we were supposed to tour in the fall that year, but it got pushed to the following year. So like we kind of, because that tour fell through, like the Zenith was kind of like released a little too early in our thing. Cause like it was released in like the middle of the year. And then like we had to wait till the following, like 6 months after it was released to just finally tour on it. So because of that, essentially our first tours was Zenith out was the Powerwolf shows that we did. So there was 2 legs of that Powerwolf tour in 23. Then we did the tour with Rhapsody and Windrose over here. So that was like the brunt of the Zenith touring here. Then after that, like 3 months later, we did our first like little headlining tour here that wrapped in Mad with Power and Prog Power. It kind of made it so like we could tour from Florida up and then back and like make it worth it. And then right after that, we did the tour with Windrose in Europe. So essentially like in I guess industry standards, like we kind of cooked that record a bit with all the touring. So like it was essentially time, because we toured the US like 3 times inside a year, which is a lot. So like, people have seen us 3 times, you know what I mean? So like, that's why this tour that we're about to go on is like, it's the only tour for the year here or in general for us. So like, we knew that we needed to have a record or like, something, we needed to release something. And we're very much like EP and then album and then EP and then album and then EP and then album because of the way that we do it with the crowdfund. So like the EP songs might make it to the record, but they'll get like a remix, remaster kind of thing. And like it's the fans kind of like pick which songs die and stuff like that. So it's all wrapped up with our crowdfund, but we're definitely
it's cool how that business model helps dictate the way things work out as far as
because I mean the idea is like if you go and record 12 or 14 songs, it's like you don't want to that many songs like over a 1 or 2 year period. You don't want to dump all of that at once, because like if you dump a 12 song record, like people are going to be like, they're going to mow right through it and then they're going to forget about it in like a month. So this way, like it should give like, after the EP, after we come home from Europe, it'll dip a little bit, probably just like your like streams and stuff, just because like people have heard it. It's not new anymore. And then like, as you start, festivals are announced and stuff like that, as we're writing, and then, the record comes out and stuff. It's just, it's how you can maintain their attention and ever collapsing attention period.
Right. And that also helps you keep the set list nice and fresh. Because if you do 4 or 5 new songs in and out and take out some old ones that maybe have been kicking around for what looks like, the better part of 15 plus years, you can, you have that opportunity, right?
Yeah. I mean, we got like, I don't even know how many songs we have total, but I mean, I think we got like probably 50 or 60 songs for the band now, but like, I mean, spanning 17 years, but it's just, it's kind of crazy, but the EP thing works for us. And, I mean, like I said, it's it's easier to spread it like a body of work out into like a mini project and then like the regular album project. So
yeah.
and
Plus,
it
probably,
gives us the time. Yeah, it gives us time to like, we put kind of three and a half like very distinct sounds out in songs. So like you listen to the reviews and you're like, oh, I like this is the typical Seven Kingdom song is what they usually say about the Square, which is what we did. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, here's the band. You know what I mean? But then it's just like, here's something like on the heavy side that we're kind of testing out with some songs. Here's our like kind of like stadium anthem style that we're kind of testing out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And stuff like that. And then getting the feedback before we do the record. You know what I mean? It's a invaluable amount of feedback and data that we collect essentially before we do the larger project.
A scientific approach, a data-driven approach.
I mean, I'm a spreadsheet nerd, so it's just
okay.
yeah.
I can see that. No, it makes sense. Yeah. That's cool. So let's talk about a couple of the songs. Oh, I did want to ask you, because we were talking about a little bit, when people think of power metal or when fans think of power metal, a lot of times they think of Europe. I would, the location, not necessarily the band.
Oh, yeah.
But, like we mentioned Halloween earlier, Gamma Ray, of course, those sorts of bands that paved the way. Did you find as you were coming up that there was a market for US power metal? And is it tough to maintain, like you're saying, the attention span of the fans when the leaders are still out there?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, I think we were too young to like even think about like something like that. We just like, we knew that there weren't a lot of power metal bands and we liked it. So we did it. And it wasn't any more thought out at that point in time when we were much younger, like besides like, we're just going to do it. You know what I mean? So like, and there's been a couple bands from the US that has like come up and stuff like that, but I don't think there's really like, I mean, I could be totally wrong, probably am, but like, there's not a lot of new ones that have had like really big, like power metal bands that have had really big breaking moments.
Right.
From the US, like Canada's different. Like you got at least Archer, Stryker, obviously, you know what I mean? Bands like that. But like, I'm kind of happy that we are few, like there's not many because
you're a bigger fish, basically, right?
Yeah. Even if there's two fish, you know what I mean? Like we're one of the bigger ones, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like, if we were, I mean, like, I've worked for Florida, so we were a death metal band, like, there's 40 of them in the state, you know what I mean? So it's just like, how do you set yourself different? You know what I mean? So it's just like we just simply play power metal from Florida. So like that alone always, and then we have that kind of like, I mean, I think as we get further into our music, like you start hearing the kind of more American edge. It's not as twinkly and symphonic like it is, but it's just like, I think our music's gotten a little bit more like headbangy, aggressive, like in some of the songs, you know what I mean? Those elements are kind of starting to show through. And that's something that we're trying to, especially moving on to the next record is like, want to establish like American power metal, like something that's not the European version. Obviously you're a power metal band, but like, what does it sound like when it's been not perfected, but like, just like, owned by an American band that has been there their whole career, and at that point almost 20 years, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of what we're trying to deliver the next record.
I think The Serpent and the Lotus is one of those songs that encapsulates everything that you're saying.
I mean, honestly, it's just like, it's got the heaviness, but it's just got the typical power metal fan service in there, but like it's just more aggressive, and it sounds more American, I think. A
little bit of thrash laced in there.
Yeah.
And at one point when she says, "Die and be reborn," she goes lower. And for a second, I was almost expecting to hear the growling, but I didn't hear it. I love when I don't hear growl. There's a site called, I think, No Clean Singing. I like clean singing. I don't really love the growl. So I'm glad that you didn't go too low.
Personally, I mean, I grew up in like, death metal, metalcore bands, and it was there, but like just nowadays I don't really listen to it unless I'm listening to like stuff like in the gym that you're like, the music's supposed to sound like the weight, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But like, especially like in power metal or very melodic style metal, like I generally personally care for the singing stuff,
Yeah. And is that, do you ever give Sabrina that sort of direction, or does she just naturally do it anyway?
She just does it anyways. I mean, usually like when we write, we usually spend, with the vocals, like she spends a week, with Jim, and our demos that we provide, kind of sketching out the vocals with him, and he helps write. So I kind of the last couple of records, we just kind of locked them in a room. They'll be like, Kevin, you wrote the song. Do you have any ideas of like melodies? And we'll, butcher some sort of like, and then they'll just take it and completely either, turn it inside out or use some of it or, come up with their own stuff. And usually they come up with their own stuff and like have little pieces of what we had, and everything they've always done. Like, I mean, we Kevin and I make rare adjustments to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If it is just like, just end high rather than low or something like that here. And I mean, it's super minute. They do a really good job when we lock them in that room together. So
nice. It's excellent. So we got a tour coming up with Stryker, who I thought had disbanded, but I guess they got back together.
No, I mean, they've been a band for a long time. It's funny. They were kind of in the same position we were in as like, we were both on Napalm, and then we both just ended up not on Napalm.
Yeah.
And like, we both kind of have a similar story and like had to climb through like the holes that were generated that necessarily weren't our fault or our problem. And, it sucks when you're with somebody and then they just
nope.
Like,
yeah.
oh no. And then they just, move on after like making a bunch of promises and stuff,
Yeah.
And then you wasted all the time setting things up and then you're starting over again. So like, I know they went through that. We went through that, and then it's just, it eats up a year, or a year and a half just dealing with the emailing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it's people don't realize it, but like it's precious time. But I mean, they've been around for a bit. Like they've been, and they had some other crazy bullshit happen to them in the industry. So I'm kind of hoping that like, they're doing the tours with us. I mean, I'm much more involved with the industry than they are, just because I work for the Art Impact Artist Management and like tour manage a bunch of bands like that come over here. So like I'm doing everything I can to just like come with me, boys. It's about time, you know what I mean? Like I've loved that band for so long, and they just need to be on better, like they need to be on tours, like, and the band will do great, and they just need that exposure. And it's just, that's the hardest part, is getting on the tour without it costing you a fortune, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I have their album.
That's why we picked them to go with us.
I have their album City of Gold. That's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, the newer stuff is like probably my favorite. Like I generally like Phoenix Lights, Former Glory, all their records have bangers on them. So
yeah. They're good.
They're definitely like one of Canada's best kept secrets, I guess.
Well, it wasn't that much of a secret. Well, I'm in New York. They made it down south a little bit. So you've got that tour coming up. That's November 9th, starting in Texas, like we said, through December 8th. So that's almost every single day for about a month. And then in February 2025, you're going to go to Europe. You're going to start in Germany in support of Unleash the Archers. And it looks like Stryker's are going to be joining you there too.
Oh yeah. No, Stryker and Unleash the Archers are like big time homies. So I work for UTA, like when they're on tour. Like I just did the Powerwolf dates with them. And so like it's just a big, it's gonna be like a big family in one bus. And I mean, Unleash the Archers is like, I mean, they're not American, they're Canadian, you know what I mean? But
right.
Essentially there are them and like Windrose are kind of the new generation of power metals, kind of like they're the ones like, with the charge and the sword, like cutting and paving the way for bands like us and Stryker. So like, we're really super stoked to be on tour with UTA, and pretty much anything we can do to make them, or like say like Windrose, bigger is like, it's in our best interest as a scene, like the new power metal bands to team up and make sure that, everybody's listening to stuff like that. Yeah.
That's actually, so you're stoked, and you got some really cool, I think, some festival shows over there in Europe as well, right?
Not yet. We were applied. I mean, I know that they started the application process, but like we're not we're not necessarily on the like the first round like drops yet. I'm hoping in a couple of years that we will be, but I'm fully anticipating to get some sort of festival stuff overseas in the summer or fall. And there's a couple other things that they're working on. I mean, next year we're supposed to be in Europe like a few times. So
Oh, okay. So
that's
hopefully
that's why we're kind of like, yeah. I mean, so we're pretty much just like not playing much US stuff. We're saving that for the new record by 2026.
Okay. And so we got that. You know what? I'm looking at the date here. You got Hellraiser. I just assumed that was a festival, the Hellraiser festival.
No,
that's a
yeah.
club.
No, Hellraiser's it's a sick venue in Leipzig.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a rad place. The crowd, that was one of the best German shows we played last year with Windrose. That was really solid. That was a highlight of the German ones.
Excellent. So that tour in Europe goes from February 12th through March 2nd, and you close out in the Netherlands. Is that right?
Yeah. We'll be there. I'm not flying home at 7:00 in the morning after the show day this time. I'm not going to do it.
No, that's you got a great itinerary there. That sounds like it's going to be fantastic. So one other thing I wanted to ask you about was on the square, which has this really cool artwork, by the way. It's super cool. You've got a cover of a song from the 80s that I know and love by Mr. Mister. It's called Kyrie, rain about the roads that I must travel. Great choice. What led you to that choice, and what is it like? Is that something that you're going to bust out live?
I don't know if we're going to play it this tour. There's a couple little like programming things that we haven't done in preparation for it. But we're not ever writing it off. We have a really crazy schedule, like driving to, and we're driving this one. So like we kind of have a hard cut like on our set, but that song was picked by, our crowdfund. So on every crowdfund, we have a perk called Pick the Cover Song. And essentially the person pays for like, the majority of what it costs, like to record a song professionally, like within our budget kind of thing. And they submit 10 songs, like a list of 10 songs. And then we go over the list with them, and then we kind of pick out of that, so we're not, it gives us a way to like kind of be challenged because they have to issue something. But at the same time, like it helps narrow it down really easy for us. You know what I mean? So
right.
That was just out of this batch, like that was the standout. So, but I mean, pretty much every cover song we've done, except for the Boys of Summer one, was a fan picked thing. So Barracuda, Hate Myself for Loving You, and then this one was all like a fan list.
All right, excellent. Well, I'm just glad that it's not a typical Maiden. Don't change it up a little bit.
No,
do,
I mean,
do
even
something
if we were
a little bit out of left field. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing we usually do is like if we want to do a song, it's like, has it been covered? And then if it has been covered, has it been covered like crazy, or is like someone already made it a hit? You know what I mean? So, like for instance, like when we did Boy of the Summer, that was a band decision, but at the same time, the Ataris did it, and they like essentially made their careers with it. But then it's just like, I think we can do it our way still, and it's such a popular song. Like, I think that's probably still my favorite one, just because it was fun to play. We played it a lot. It worked live, and like we did a lot of work to it to make it sound the way it does. So, but yeah, I mean, they've all been fun to do, and I like the process. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how we're gonna get off crowdfunding because like so much of the way we release the records is involved with that, because we have so much like fan feedback, and they vote. So they're gonna like, if a certain perk level, like they're gonna decide which 2 songs off the EP to kill, and 2 of them like make it to the record essentially. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that'll be fun to hand them the gavel.
Excellent. So Camden, gonna let you go in a moment, but very excited for the tour that's coming up in North America and then in Europe. Anything you want to say to the fans, and maybe some that who are brand new or weren't aware of the crowdfunding? Anything you want to say to the people listening out there?
Well, first off, thank you to those who have been by our side for a long time. We really appreciate it. We wouldn't be here without you, and watching y'all watch us just wrestle our way through the industry the last 17 years. If you are a new fan, thank you for checking us out. We've been a band for 17 years. We've toured all over the United States and Europe and all over the world with like Powerwolf, Point Guardian, Stradivarius, Amaranth, Evergrey, Wind Rose, Unleash the Archers, Beast in Black, Rhapsody of Fire, all of them. So we got a lot more to do, but please check out The Square off of Raining Phoenix Music, and check out all of our back catalog, because we got 5 full-length albums and like 3 EPs and a single. So like there's a mountain of music for you to discover. Excellent. And hopefully enjoy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I wish you lots of success on the road, and thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you very much, brother.
Special thanks again to Seven Kingdoms guitarist Camden Cruz for joining us here on Radio X. The new EP is The Square, and you are hearing a clip of the new single Wilted Pieces. This EP is available everywhere from Raining Phoenix Music. Their social links are on this interview's show notes. And as we said during the interview, this is a U.S. power metal band that is going places, not just in their career, but they are hitting the road. They are on tour in North America right now with Stryker, Lutharo and Osyron, and you can check the show notes for the dates as they reach a town near you. This tour will run through December 8th, and then they will head on over to Europe, along again with Stryker and in support of Unleash the Archers. That European tour starts February 12th in Germany, and that will run through March 2nd and close out in the Netherlands. Those dates are also on this interview's notes. As always, be sure to make legitimate purchases of the music, merch, and tickets to support hardworking artists like Seven Kingdoms. Be sure to check out RadioRadioX.com for all your music needs. From our daily radio programming to merchandise to interviews and reviews. If you are into hard rock and metal interviews, I hope you'll check out my other ones with Flotsam and Jetsam guitarist Michael Gilbert and my favorite singer of all time, John Bush of Armored Saint and Category 7. Email at info@radioradiox.com and follow us on social. Special thanks to Art, Rob, and everyone at the Radio X team for supporting me as I get acclimated. I am Justin Smulison, and I've got more video interviews on the way. Thank you for tuning into this interview, brought to you by Radio X.